Hi everyone and welcome to another Wargame guide. Today I wanted to briefly cover unit Veterancy and the bonuses it gives. Veterancy doesn't start on the deck page, it technically starts when you're creating a deck. Obviously you can choose your national deck. What makes a difference here to Veterancy, however, is the type of deck. So for example, Motorized, if I click that, we get +1 XP for all the units of type Recon Vehicle and Infantry. If we go for Armored, we get +2 XP units for type Tank. If we go for Support, we get +1 XP for units of type Support, and so on and so forth. Marines, Planes and Infantry, +1. Mechanized, +1 for Vehicle and Infantry, and Airborne, +1 for Infantry, Helo and Plane. Now, the bonus that gives is basically to add to the experience level of the vehicles. So if I don't select anything, okay, and I click Create on a USA deck, and then I go to Tanks, just because it's quick and easy, and I select the Trained or 3 Hardened. If I then back out of this, scrap that, and go back to Create and choose Type Armored and click USA again, don't forget that, and I go back to Tanks and click the same tank, you'll notice that they've each jumped up 2 spaces. So I now get Veterans and Elites. Now equally, if I create a USA deck and I go to, let's go for Infantry, and we select the Lad Red Eye just because they're quick and easy to click on, you can see that I have the option of Trained and Hardened. So if I go back, USA, and this time I choose Motorized, I get +1 XP for Recon, Vehicle and Infantry, and hopefully Lad Red Eyes are still there. Let's go back to Infantry, and there we go. We still have them coming in different vehicles, but that doesn't matter. But can you now see we have Hardened and Veteran? So what has happened is each of these units have been boosted with a single experience point rather than 2. So they've gone up 1 level each, whereas the tanks went up 2 levels each. So now we're in the deck screen again, and I just want to have a look through all of the types of training, the different levels, and what stats they give. So Rookie gives nothing, so I'm not bothered about showing that, so don't worry about Rookie. Rookie is just the base stats on the unit. You can ignore that one. If you can avoid it, don't bring in Rookie units. It's not worth it. Trained, not great, but it gives you a bonus 8% accuracy, minus 10% dispersion artillery shells, plus 150% faster morale recovery, plus 5% more chance to see and identify enemy units, and minus 19% stun effect duration. So let's just think about that. Accuracy applies to any unit with a gun or a missile, so pretty much any unit in the game except for artillery pieces that don't have a direct fire weapon. The dispersion on artillery shots only applies to artillery units and mortars, so that decreases the dispersion that they have. Faster morale recovery applies to all units, so when a unit takes morale damage, if you become worried, shaken, panicked, then your unit will fire slower, it will fire less accurately, and if it becomes extremely panicked, there is a chance it can rout off the field and stop following your commands. So each veterancy level above this, things increase. So Hardened unit would get plus 16% accuracy, minus 19% dispersion, plus 200% morale recovery, plus 10% chance to see enemy units, and minus 39% stun effect duration. I would say the chance to see and identify enemy units, yes, it applies to all units, but is more important for Recon. And the stun effect duration, as you'll see by the time we get to Elite, it's a massive bonus. Now, I'm just going to switch to the Abrams M1A2 so we can see Veteran. So Veteran is then 24%, minus 30%, plus 250, plus 15, minus 60% stun duration. That's a huge reduction. And then I'm just going to quickly switch to the air deck because I know there are elite units here. So there's an elite. 32% accuracy bonus, minus 39% dispersion on artillery shots, plus 300% faster morale recovery, plus 20% more chance to see and identify enemy units, and minus 80% stun effect duration. Now remember, as it says in the tips here, the more experienced, the more efficient in combat, but the less availability per slot. However, the price is always the same. So you're not paying more for an elite unit, you just get less of them. So if you're playing in a low point game, then take the most elite units you can potentially, because if you're not going to be bringing in many units in that game, what's the point in having 3 aeroplanes if you're only ever going to bring in 1? Because you won't be able to afford all 3. What's the point in bringing in 4 hardened tanks if you can bring in 2 elite for the same price, and you're only ever going to bring in 1 in a match anyway? So just something to think about when it comes to veterancy. In general, the higher the veterancy, the better the unit in terms of its accuracy and in terms of its morale recovery. I don't know if there's an element for certain of units are harder to panic if they're also increased in veterancy. From my little tests that I've done in the game map, that's possibly true, as my elite certainly seem to last out as calm longer than my veteran vehicle did. But it's difficult to say for certain. Now, the other thing to mention is the whole plus 32% accuracy, plus 24%, plus 16, plus 8 isn't truly reflective of the numbers. So, yes, if we go back to the tanks, because this is what I tested with in my game, the M1A1HA, this has 65% accuracy at base. So if we times 65 by 1.24, or in this case 1.16, so that's 16% of that added on, that gives us 75.4. Now I know that the veteran is 24%, so 65 times 1.24 is 80.6, so 81 rounded up. And then we know that the elite is 32%, so that would be 65 times 1.32. And that would be 86, rounded up from 85.8. Now, one problem with that calculation is the percentages don't always work correctly. So yes, in this case for the 65% base, it works out that it's 70, 75, 81, but then it would be 86 using the calculation, but in-game it's actually 88. And the lower the base accuracy, the more out of whack it is, to some extent. For example, when you go down to 15% accuracy, if you add 32% to that, then it comes out as 19.8. But in-game, your unit will actually have an accuracy of 24. So there's another calculation going on inside the game that isn't accounted for with the percentages here. You actually get a bigger bonus the lower the initial or base accuracy is of the unit. So that's all I can really show you on this screen, because all we get here really is the accuracy. You could look at the Paladins and the M109s to look at the dispersion, but that's difficult to show on this screen. Okay, now let's stop for a second before we go to the game map and have a look at the table, which shows the veterancy levels and accuracy levels in relation to those veterancy levels. I'm not going to talk, I'll just leave it up there for you guys to have a look, and you can pause as you see fit. Okay, so you've probably had a little bit of time to look at that table, and I'll make sure the link is down below from where I originally sourced that on Reddit. Now, we're in the game map, and I want to show you some of the units. So let's have a look at these 2 tanks. We have an elite, M1A1HA, and a veteran one. Pretty simple. So just to prove that that table is correct, I'm going to go to this one's maximum range. There we go, 2274. Remember, it's always a meter less. So it says that it can do 2275 as its maximum range. That's not true. The maximum range is always a meter less. So there we go. 81% comes up down the bottom there. That's what you're looking for. that tells you the unit's accuracy at that range. So again, if I do 74, aiming 88%. So elite is 88 and 81 for the veteran. Now, if you want to make that 99%, then for the elite one, you need to bring that down to 1,375 meters. So if I got 1,375, there we go, 99%. And if we do the veteran one, it is 1,175. So 200 less. And there we go, to 99%. Now equally, if I change that and increase it slightly to 180, just to prove the point, you now see it's gone down to 98%. And then if I fire really close up, so 300 meters, it goes to 100%. Now another thing to take into account when you're thinking about accuracy, and although it's not veterancy related specifically, size of unit makes a difference. So if you've got a very large unit, a big unit, for example, a tank is big, then it's going to be easier to hit than a very small unit like some infantry. So there is a penalty or a bonus depending on the size of the unit, which is also a factor. Now what I'm going to do is try and panic these guys. So I'm going to drop a paveway between them, hopefully, and cause them both to panic a bit, just so I can show you the morale recovery and also the firing while panicked. There we go. Did I panic them? Yes, so they're both panicked. So if I now fire at the maximum range where we were firing before. So there's the maximum range. Can you now see there's a huge dispersion area? And our accuracy has gone down to 46 on the elite. And it's gone down to 40% on the veteran. And similarly, there are obviously different levels. We're going to watch this as well to see when it stops being panicked, and then we'll switch to the veteran, because the elite should stop being panicked sooner. There we go, it's shaken. So that one switched to worried, and this one should very quickly switch to worried as well. There we go. So there's just that slight lag from the veteran unit. The elite one will always recover faster. But obviously there would be a more extreme difference if you had a rookie unit and the elite. But it's difficult to have that in one deck, obviously. When the units are calm, it's 88% for the elite and 81% for the veteran. If the units are worried, it's 78 and 71%. If they're shaken, then it's 64 and 57. And if they're panicked, it's 46 and 40. So it makes a huge difference when they take morale damage. Recovery then is obviously very important. If you can't cover quickly from morale damage, your unit's going to die. If your morale damage gets too high, the unit will rout and you will lose control of it, and it will drive off in one straight line and probably get destroyed anyway. So the other thing to pay attention to when you're firing units like this is, do you see there are little plus symbols around the numbers where you're aiming? Once you come to 717, that increases to 5 pluses rather than 4. And that's when we get our 100% accuracy. And the same here. So once we get to 615, there's that sudden change to +5, or 5 pluses. Now let's have a look at the artillery pieces. So again, we have 2 sets of units. Here we have hardened, and here we have trained. So we're going to zoom out. We're going to have a non-corrected shot, and we're going to line this up so that we're covering a particular area just to show the difference. It shows the circle size well. I think these squares of fields are probably going to be the best way to demonstrate. Okay, so if we have the circle touching the road here at the bottom and at the top side there, and we can see the circle goes through the trees. And then if I switch to the other artillery and we do the same, do you see how that circle is smaller? I mean, it doesn't get much more simple than that. Same units, same sort of distance. I mean, we can have them still on top of each other, but I think the principle there is quite obvious. Touching the road there, touching the road there, nowhere near the trees. So that circle is smaller. Simple as that. And just for reference, I'll obviously put those side by side so you can see the difference. So again, I hope that's been helpful. I hope it's covered the basics of veterancy for everyone. Shout out to Admiral Obvious, who suggested this video on the Discord. Obviously, if anyone would like to discuss the videos outside of YouTube, please feel free to join our Discord. Come and make suggestions, come and chat about this game or other games. The link is down below. As always, please like, share and subscribe. Comments are welcome down below, both positive and negative. What are your views on Veterancy? Have I missed something that you think should be in there? Have a fantastic week, everyone.